Good morning and happy Monday. Welcome to the Daily Bible Wrap Up. It is morning and the sun is actually, I guess it's on this side, rising over my head through the screen of the window here in Studio 1A. I think kind of gives me a little angelic look, I guess. I don't know. A little halo there. I'm not sure. We start today, this Monday. Good way to start the week is in the Word. We're still in Psalm 78, verse 9. The warriors of Ephraim, though armed with bows, turned their backs and fled on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant and refused to live by his instructions. I guess this is just meant to be a historical recap. I didn't really get much more from the reading than that. Now, in New Testament, we're heading into Acts 25, picking up from where I mistakenly left off yesterday. I apologize for that. I had a little break in between when I was reading and putting my notes down, and I thought I was done with the New Testament reading, and I wasn't. I missed 15 verses. So we're in Acts 25. This is from yesterday's reading. Paul and Silas are praying and singing hymns to God in prison. So this is kind of an odd thing. Not the behavior you might expect. It's like they've been arrested, they're in prison, but they're praising God and they're singing. I think that part of this is that they're happy that they're suffering for God. I'm not really sure, but anyway, they're not there for too long, or maybe not have to be there for too long, because then there's an earthquake, a massive earthquake, and the jail doors fly open, and the chains of all the prisoners fall off. Yet the prisoners didn't leave. I found that interesting as well, too. Now, the jailer, seeing all of this, kind of amazed all around. He's and understanding too where the why that they were arrested. He's like, well, how can one be saved? Because I want to be like you guys. And the answer was pretty simple: believe in the Lord Jesus. That's a simple statement. That's all we need to be saved. At that point in time, the jailer and everybody in his household were baptized. Now, the next day, Paul and Silas are told that they may leave, but Paul told them that they are Roman citizens. In other words, now don't try to get rid of us too fast. You arrested us, and that wasn't cool to do to Roman citizens. And the authorities didn't realize that they were Roman citizens. So this kind of freaked them out, seems like. So they apologized. Look, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry. So I guess that kind of ended the drama between those folks. Now, Paul and Silas encouraged the believers and then left town. And I'm not sure, I think Timothy's with them right now as well, too. Now, in Acts 17, they've traveled to Thessalonica, and Paul preached in the synagogue 3 Sabbaths in a row. Some of the Jews believed, as well as, quote, many God-fearing Greek men and quite a few prominent women. But some Jews were jealous and incited a mob to get them from Jason's house. I guess that's where they were staying, Paul and Silas and maybe Timothy. Kind of lost track of Timothy in all this. Apologize for that. But that's where, at least, that they thought that the believers were staying. Paul, Silas, and maybe Timothy were staying, but they weren't there. So I don't recall hearing Jason's name before either. Well, since they couldn't find who they were looking for, they dragged Jason and a couple of the other believers out of the house and arrested them for aiding treason. And then those folks posted bond and were released. And then that night, the believers sent Paul and Silas to Bera, I think it is. Not Beva, Bera. And Paul and Silas went to the synagogue to preach, because that's what they do whenever they went to another town, and found a more receptive audience. But some Jews in Thessalonica, I think it's Thessalonica. I'm going to go with that, hard C. Heard and went and, quote, stirred up trouble. The believers immediately sent Paul away. And the tone, the way I got it, seemed to indicate that this was for Paul's safety. Paul lands in Athens and waits for Timothy and Silas to join him. So again, I don't know if Timothy was with him or if Timothy would be coming from another place. I probably need to go back and try to figure that out. But while Paul's in Athens, he's disheartened by all the idols there. Remember, all the Greek gods and all of this. So, of course, what does Paul do? Paul does what Paul does best. He goes and starts preaching. Here, I believe it's like in the public square because they don't really have synagogues at that point in time in Athens. Now, the High Council of Athens was interested in what Paul was preaching because the inhabitants there were open to the latest ideas. So he's found a receptive audience now. Maybe he wasn't quite expecting that. Old Testament, we're in 1 Kings 16, verse 8 is where we begin our journey today. Elha ruled Israel for 2 years, and then Zimri kills him and becomes king and immediately kills off the royal family of Baasha, fulfilling the prophet Jehu's promise. So that way, too, that probably none of those folks can then claim the throne. But Zimri's reign only lasted 7 days. The army of Israel, upon hearing that Zimri had assassinated Elha, rebelled and chose Omri as the new king of Israel. Zimri killed himself in a fire. Once he realized that the army was coming and all of that, he's time up. Now, Omri ruled for 12 years and did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He died, and his son Ahab became king. Ahab ruled for 22 years, doing evil in the sight of the Lord, worse evil, more evil than ever before, all the kings before, including worshiping Baal or Baal. I think it's Baal. I'm going to continue to go with Baal. Now, an interesting little tidbit at the end of the chapter, just kind of seems like that it's thrown in there. I certainly have forgotten about this. During this, Hiel, Hiel, a man from Bethel, rebuilt Jericho according to the message of the Lord concerning Jericho that was given to Joshua, son of Nun, way back when. Probably should go check that reference. Wouldn't be a bad idea for you to do, too. 1 Kings 17, now we're introduced to Elijah. Of course, is a major character in Old Testament, prophet. Elijah tells Ahab that there will be no rain in the next few years until, quote, I give the word. Now, at this point in time, the Lord directs Elijah to hide by and to drink from the Kerith brook and eat whatever the ravens bring. Now, I guess Elijah had to hide because either his message was not well received by Ahab or he would be pressured by Ahab to call for rain, or maybe both. Well, the brook dries up because there's no rain, and the Lord instructs Elijah to go to a widow in Zarephath. I don't know if that's a soft knot, to feed him. She had only a bit of flour and oil left and was about to make her last meal for her and her son. They were getting ready to die. The famine caused by the drought had been that severe. But Elijah said, go ahead, make the meal, but make it for all of us. And you will have enough flour and oil until the rain returns. And this does come to pass. So sometime later, so they haven't died because they have now a continuing supply of flour and oil from this miracle from the Lord. Sometime later, her son got sick and died, but Elijah revived the child. Now, this convinced the women that Elijah was a man of God. I guess the endless supply of flour and oil didn't do it. I know that if I continued to have an endless supply of flour and oil, I would see that as a miracle and a sign that this was from the man of God. 1 Kings 18, now in the 3rd year of the droughts, the Lord instructed Elijah to go to Ahab and say that, hey, rain is coming soon. So Elijah's on his way, encounters Obadiah, who is reluctant to lead him to Ahab, since Elijah had a tendency to, as the posses, if you will, were coming for him, to disappear, and then this would anger Ahab and result in negative consequences. And I know it's negative consequences because Obadiah is afraid that he's going to go to Ahab and say, "Hey, Elijah's coming here," and then Elijah's going to disappear again, and then Ahab's going to be really upset and kill him. But Elijah swears that he will present himself to Ahab. And that's where we end for today. Hope you have a blessed day. Sun is still rising. And take the opportunity today to walk by the Spirit of the Lord.